well, probably about 40 minutes or so
Yeah,
anyway.
where are you off
But
to?
well, might be going out for brunch.
All right,
So,
with
so
just yourselves or with anyone or
yeah, just me and Lainey. So it is. This is the thing where we live in now. By the way, is the volume okay from the
yeah,
microphone?
volume's fine
Yeah.
now, it's all fine now, all the lip sync and everything as well.
Yeah. So there's like we're discovering new areas like
Oh
around where
yeah.
we live. So there's like this year, like last year was so chaotic in
Mm.
terms of like stuff, like in a brilliant way, but
Yeah.
it was a lot going on. So I said to Lainey, this year I just want to like enjoy my life. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like that's what I want to do. So we're like discovering new areas around where we live in. And there's a nice brunch place in Newport because Newport's literally 10 minutes from us now. So it's but if you hear me coughing on this one, I've been ill, like really ill. So,
Oh, is
so
that
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Apologize in advance. But yeah, so there's like a nice brunch place we discovered in Newport, which is like 10 minutes away. There's just so many cool spots around you. Talk about the walks. Like you'll have to come down for Ricky was actually messaging me about some of the different walks now that we've got around here. You got like Macken Mountain, like there's
Yeah.
tons of different places, Newport Way. It's
All
just
walkable from where you live or not then, are they? Or
well,
you
yeah.
drive yourself?
Well, it
Yeah.
depends where you go. Like, there's
Mm.
so many from where we live, which you can walk to, but also you can short drive, and there's
Yeah.
some beautiful places. You have to come down. It's a nice thing about where we live in. You're in the country, which is
Mm.
what I love. Like, I that was one of my things. Like when we moved, I didn't want to be able to hear the traffic. That
Yeah.
was my one of my prerequisites.
Yeah, it's nice.
But then also we're in the middle of a lot of different things going on, so we're not in the middle of nowhere either. So it's like kind of the best of both
Both
worlds.
worlds to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know. So yeah, we're gonna be going to brunch maybe. It
Are you
depends. I'm gonna have a chat with her, but
are you doing LA now or not? LA or West Coast America?
no,
Or not?
no.
No.
And again, it wasn't the cost mainly. It was mainly like that. Like everything's been so full on. You know,
Mm.
like last year. And again, it sounds like I'm complaining. I'm not, but it was just a lot. Like I went on 4 holidays,
Mm.
which is obviously unbelievable. We had an amazing time.
And your wedding.
Wedding, moving the house.
Yeah.
Obviously, now we've just go over Christmas and stuff like that. And I knew this is why I was always against it because I knew I just need a few months to recalibrate. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
need a bit of stability. I don't want to
Mm.
get on a plane for a little while,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Like I know, and surely that's a good sign, you know.
Yeah.
Surely that's like a sign that, do you know, I just want to crack on now, you
Mm.
know. Not saying I don't want to go away anyway, but I just, yeah, I don't want to be traveling
Doing
everywhere
that.
early in the
Yeah.
year. Yeah. So yeah, mate. But anyway, I thought about for this one
Yeah.
what we were talking about, like pretty much on and off through the last couple of weeks or whatever. Because it's been a little while since we last did one of these, isn't it? Two, three
Yeah, it's
weeks.
a couple of weeks before Christmas, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
been so full on. We like
Mm.
now we can have a good run at it now every
Yeah,
week
yeah,
doing
definitely.
podcasts. Um, so yeah, this concept that I came up with over the Christmas period because I've always kind of done it. Like we've talked about this before, um, and this concept called athlete days. Now,
Mm.
I've always in some capacity throughout the week. Well, usually I just do, you know, basic self-defense work with
Your
boxing.
boxing.
You know,
Yeah.
I've always done my lifting, which has been
Mhm.
remained the priority of my week. But alongside that, for my cardiovascular health, I've always kept up some type of skill because I had a little bit of a background with it, you know, when I was about 17 or 18, and I did it for a few years, and I loved it. You know, I've always said in another life, I wish I could have pursued that, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've kept it up, you know, and but I don't spar or anything. It's just footwork and bag work, and I enjoy it. You know, it's nothing
Yeah.
serious, and you know, I'm not competitive by any
Not
means.
looking to go for the heavyweight title then anyway. I'll see
No,
you
but
and Jake Paul in the ring next, or maybe you take on AJ. Yeah.
Jake Paul and me, he's like he's quite a big guy, because he's I think he's about 220 pounds, is he? Whatever that is, he's about 100
Is-
kilos, I think.
Right. Yeah. So he's bigger than you then.
Yeah, yeah, but he's a bit
Yeah.
taller than me as well, I
Is
think.
he? Oh, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't think you. Is he like 6 foot then or
I
something?
think he's about 6 foot. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But yeah. So I've always kept kept that in some capacity. And I was thinking over the Christmas period, why do I do that? And obviously there's the obvious reason, right? So, the way I like to look at this is strength training is responsible for your independence as you age. Like
Mm.
strength is important for your force production, right? So that, you can get in your shopping from the car and bring it into your house, to pick up your grandkids, to be able to play in the garden with your children.
Yeah.
That's what strength training kind of maintains, essentially. And it allows you to be independent as you age, which is really important. Um, it also makes every other physical quality better because
Mm.
the more force you can produce if you're an athlete, that's very important in every physical capacity you can probably think of. It's the base, right, of
Yeah.
how we interact with our environment is force production.
Narrow base.
Narrow base. That's you, mate. Mr. Sagittal playing a narrow base, yeah. Uh, how- but and then you've got your cardiovascular health, right?
Yeah.
So VO2 max, and I think it's maximal strength. They're the two biggest indicators of mortality rates,
Mm.
right? So VO2 max and cardiovascular health is very important for your heart health, for your
Mm.
organ function, right? And so you can look at this as almost allowing you to live a long life, and then strength training is what
Higher quality of life.
higher quality life. That's a great way of putting it. Yeah. And I think they are both as important as one another. Right
Yeah.
now, it doesn't mean that they are prioritized equally in your
Mm.
week because strength is far harder to obtain, but it's also far harder to lose. Cardio is very easy to gain, but also very easy to lose as
Yeah.
well. And for that reason, strength should be the priority in the week, but cardio is almost dotted in around in the right doses. And with this idea of what I've always done, I've always layered a skill on top of it. And that's what I want to talk about today. Why do you layer a skill on top of it? And I think that it has more of a holistic involvement in the week of trainings than just your cardiovascular health. I actually
Yeah.
think it's really important. But the first place I want to go to before we get into this, because I think this is really important point, and I'd like you to touch on this as well.
Hmm.
People have grossly overdone cardio, haven't they, in
Oh,
recent
yeah.
years?
God,
But
yeah.
I want you to touch on that because I know you've got strong opinions on it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been there and done that. I was like, what do they call them? Cardio bunny. Literally used to live on. Um, I used to go in the gym when I was 15, 16. I would go in the gym. I would do 25 minutes hard cardio or like on a treadmill. I mean, like running at probably 19 kilometers an hour for as long as I could until I was done. And then I'd get on the bike and I'd do 4 minute intervals, 4 minutes all out as hard as I could, 4 minutes recovering. I'd do that for again 20 minutes. I'd leave the gym looking dead, but I thought that was like that was the bulk of the training. That's where and then I'd go off and do some bicep curls just for the kind of the parts of the body I wanted to develop. And I thought that's what training should be. Like it was all about cardio, and then you sprinkle in the resistance training on top. So it's like ass backwards, really.
Yeah,
And
you
I,
had you had it the other way round,
I
effectively,
think,
from what just
yeah,
yeah.
I think a lot of people get it like that, especially at this time of year. Where the fitness industry loves to push like fat loss and things like that, and it's like a lot of people will see that the first port of call should be putting the trainers on and going for a run or slogging through some hit class or hit workout, which we know just isn't the case, is it? Like nutrition is where it falls for fat loss, and your training should be making you a better, more able physical human being.
Right, absolutely. And this is the other important point to think with you've got to be careful of how much cardio you do
Mm.
because it does eat away at your muscle mass.
Mm.
So the more and more cardio you do, the body adapts to cardio versus strength training in direct opposition with one another, right?
Mm.
So in my opinion, I think that the devil is in the dose with cardio. I think the right amount of cardio not only is beneficial for your health, I actually think is beneficial for you as a lifter too,
Mm.
because it's going to allow you to recover better between sets, within sets, and between training days as well. But the problem is it's been grossly oversold to people. Especially you look at like these hybrid athletes, right? That they call themselves hybrid athletes anyway. You know,
Essentially, someone who lifts and does cardio. It's not
yeah, I mean, like you could call me and you a hybrid athlete if
exactly.
if
Yeah,
you wanted to, because every sensible lifter does that to some
yeah,
extent, as we just talked about. But they're not hybrid athletes really in any
mm.
essence, because I don't see any lifting going on. Right?
Mm.
They're just cardio bunnies, like you
Yeah,
said. But they wear this hybrid athlete like a badge of honor. There's no lifting going on in a high rocks event. I'm sorry,
mm.
pushing and pulling a sled, like
Mm.
that's not you being a lifter. That's
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
pushing and pulling a sled, right?
yeah,
Like that's a cardiovascular event, in my
yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, I mean, you're not. I mean, that's one of the good things for the sled for rehab is it doesn't really create any muscle damage, so it's not.
Right,
You know,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, you're not necessarily getting much stronger by doing that, are you?
no,
Wall balls, for instance, like no, that's a cardiovascular event.
mm.
Strength endurance, maybe they'll call it, but my thoughts on that.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, look, that's the reality of what the current landscape looks like. So I think it's important for us to acknowledge that because
mm.
yeah, it is grossly oversold, and that's not our position at all. We believe in cardio in the right dosages.
Mm.
Then on the other hand, you've got the barbell strength coaches, and look, I see them all the time. You might not see them as much because you're not really as much
In
in
that
this
realm,
world as
yeah.
me. But you just go cardio doesn't matter. You just get that from your lifting.
It's like, oh yeah, what's the classic one? It's like, yeah, cardio is anything over 5 reps.
Yeah, I mean, listen, yeah, sure, there is a cardiovascular effect when you're doing sets of five, for sure,
Mm.
but not to the extent that you're getting optimal heart and lung function.
Absolutely
Okay.
not. That's the thing. It's a different, yeah, it's a different stimulus altogether.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's that too, and I
Mm.
think that again, barbell strength coaches tend to wear this like a badge of honor, and
Mm.
for whatever reason, they're afraid to say, do you know what, you should be getting some cardio in as well.
Yeah.
Whether that they feel it dilutes their position and authority as a coach, I don't know, but it does go on.
Mm.
But so you've got both ends, right?
Yeah.
Um, Now, where does athlete days for non-athletes, which is really important to say,
Mm.
right? Because we call them athlete days because it kind of conveys the spirit of what we're trying to do. But we also acknowledge that to be an athlete, you have
You
to
got to
be
be
playing a
competing.
sport. You
Yeah,
have to be
yeah.
competing, right?
Yeah.
So
You can be
take that.
athletic, but not be an athlete.
Right. So this is where this comes in. Okay.
Mm.
So being athletic and being an athlete are two different things.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, being athletic simply means you have the physical base, which is built
Mm.
on strength, and you have a maximal strength, power, all of those physical qualities that you can build in the gym, but you have maintained the ability to express that through different athletic qualities,
Yeah.
whether that be sprinting, fighting, or whatever it might be, um, or whatever that the way you want to express it, right? So you do
Yeah.
a lot of sprints, right?
Mm.
Like that would be a maintenance of that strength expression.
Hmm.
Um, Whereas an athlete does all of that, but is actively competing within a sport. And that's a really,
Yeah.
really important definition. So what I encourage people to do is layer a skill on top so that you maintain that strength expression. And the way I like to put it is like this. You build the Ferrari in the gym,
Mm.
right? You build the Ferrari in the gym and you build that really powerful car. But none of it really matters if you've got a shit driver,
Yeah.
and so what you're doing when you do these skills is you're learning to use that Ferrari engine,
The
but
power and
the
yeah.
power and everything else, but learn how to drive that car correctly,
That's a
through
good analogy.
through doing a skill,
Mm.
etc. So what would be your, say if someone's listening to this, they've got that physical base, right,
Mhm.
but they haven't done any sort of skill expression. because this is why I was curious to talk to you about anyway.
Yeah.
What would be your reintroduction for someone who hasn't done sprints or done anything like this in years?
Mm.
How would you advise them to start? What would that protocol look like?
Well, it would be a cautious approach. So the one thing would be don't just put your trainers on, go to your local football pitch or athletics track and go and try and sprint 100 meters flat out.
Right.
That's a recipe for disaster for most people, you know. A couple of reasons is like, like you said, if someone hasn't sprinted in years, sprinting is a skill, first and foremost. Whilst we can all put one foot in front of the other and run, sprinting is an entirely different beast altogether. Like the skill execution of it at high power, high velocity, brings with it a lot more risk. So for someone starting out, it would be literally mark off an area with two cones, 10 meters, and just get used to, well, it's not even sprinting, it's accelerating across 10 meters. That serves a couple of purposes. It allows you to express your maximum, I say maximum power, but you can feel like you are putting everything into it, but you're also constrained because it's only 10 meters. So you're not going to be getting up to
Top
getting
end
to,
speed.
yeah, not going to be touching high end velocity. You're not going to be getting into upright running. So you're constraining your potential for injury, and you can kind of recondition yourself to both the skill and your tendons and muscles to the demands of acceleration, sprinting, and then it's just a short to long approach, and then you can gradually then layer on, increase the distance, layer on more volume, because that's the other thing. A lot of people will go and treat us a sprint speed workout like cardio and almost, you know, sprint, jog back and do that. Like that's not sprinting, that's not
Mm,
speed work
mm.
because it becomes aerobic and becomes submaximal.
Right, right.
So
So what would you suggest then? So for instance, volume you touched on there.
mm,
Someone who's like a reintroduction, I think you put it this way, a reintroduction to sport, I think you
yeah.
you called it, which I really like that idea.
Mm.
Um, what would the volume landmarks look like in something like that?
So you could like a really good one that's commonly used is 10 by 10, so 10 sets of 10 meters. And you can adjust the rest periods depending on what you're looking to get out of it. So you could like I said, set out two cones 10 meters apart. Um, you can go from a hard start, which would be like a 3 point stance. So on one hand down 2 feet, that's that's obviously harder. Or you could then jog into it if you want to, but obviously accelerate across 10 meters, turn around, walk back. You could go again if you're trying to get a bit more conditioning into it, because like that's beneficial if you're going into a sport as well. If you are looking to actually develop your maximum speed, then I would probably take more rest in between and actually work. And then, that's what I said to you, video yourself from a side angle and you can actually look at your sprint mechanics because, yeah, there's so many things that can go wrong. Overstriding is a big one, something I got caught out on, tore my hamstring up from it. And that was literally just
Well, I
sprinting
did that
down.
playing rugby,
Yeah.
you know.
It's so easy to do. And you can be like, yeah, I'm naturally fast, you're naturally fast. So you think, oh well, because I'm fast, I'm good at sprinting. And like that's actually quite a red flag because whilst you can be fast because you're capable of moving your body quick and you can produce force, you can still have pretty shit biomechanics on top of that, which is then, that's a risk then for pulling a hamstring, a hip flexor, whatever it be.
Right, so you do a 10 by 10.
10 by 10, yeah.
Right. And how would you build that out then? What would that look like? Because I
So
imagine you'd probably need some, beyond that, you'd probably need some type of um skill. Would you need any sort of like speed coaching
I
particularly?
mean, yeah, if you want to obviously learn more about it, get better, then obviously hiring someone who can coach you on speed is obviously the way to go, like anything.
Yeah.
Um, you see lots of fancy things online about doing like wall drills and stuff like that, and I do think obviously there's a place for them, but it's not going to I don't think have a profound impact. You know,
The thing I think about is this with it. I think, say if someone's listening to this and think, oh, I want to have my sprint form checked.
mm,
it's once you have that form down, you
Mm.
don't really need that coach anymore, right?
Yeah.
So it is a bit different to strength training where that's training, right? So
Mm.
you learn the skill, but then you train. And that means that the program needs to evolve over time to continue the training effect.
Yeah.
But speed is a skill expression. So it's a very different thing. So once you have that skill, it's effectively then you're just trying to maintain that skill and that strength expression over time, or potentially and hopefully marginally improve it over time. Because
Mm.
the reality is, it's extremely hard to progress.
To go,
Very,
I mean,
very
you're not
hard.
going like,
You
if you're
know?
starting sprinting, or getting into it in your as an adult, like chances are, unless you're a freak, you're not going to the Olympics. So just forget about it, So just do it like I do it. I just do it because it like for me, nothing makes me feel more alive than when I'm just going flat out sprinting. It just feels great.
Right, right.
And I like having that physical quality because any sport you play, if I go and play football, if, what is it, playing on the paddle court, things like that, you just have an advantage if you can get around quickly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So just yeah, I just and so if you're just doing it for enjoyment, then like develop your skill at sprinting enough that you can, move well and be safe at it, and then just enjoy it.
Yes,
And
yeah.
don't get like this coming from me because obviously I track my speed with the GPS and things, but just don't get too um over obsessed with the numbers and things like that because essentially you're doing it for enjoyment and to make you more
Right.
athletic.
And that's the entire point of what I was trying to get at, really,
Mm,
was, this is I think a more holistic approach.
mm.
My ultimate goal is to be the strongest lifter that I can be, who's also athletic, useful, and healthy.
Yeah.
That's my goal. And I think that should be the goal for everyone who's,
Mm.
because the two-factor model of sport performance, which I've talked to you about before,
Yeah.
is not only important to distinguish the difference between what's training and what's practice, but also that training and practice are both very important, not only for athletes, but also for non-athletes too.
Hmm.
Because effectively, you want to have one part that is training and building that engine, and the other part which maintains your ability to express strength in different ways. And if you don't have that, which lots of people don't because they've swapped their sport out for a desk job or wherever it might be,
Mm.
then that's where people get hurt. And
Definitely.
you give me the example of like the rugby player who hasn't played in 10 years and goes back for a Boxing Day match and tears their hamstring.
Well, it is, or yeah, or the other one is like sports day. I know some schools they do like a parents' race at sports day, and
Right.
like that's that is if you want the real concoction for an injury, take a group of like you know parents who've maybe they've played football, they've played rugby, or they've got a background in that, and now they're on show in front of the rest of the school and the rest of the adults watching there, and this is their time to shine, and this is their time to be like get the gold medal and make their son or daughter proud. So they're
Right.
freaking going for it. And
Right.
like they haven't sprinted in years and they're going flat out across maybe whatever it be, 40, 60 meters. Like, yeah, yeah, great way to rip yourself up.
Well, the thing with me is that, and we've talked about this tons of times in Portugal and stuff like that.
Mm.
I just don't think that these this hasn't been talked about in the right way. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't
Yeah.
think coaches put things in their correct place. So I think very rarely do people distinguish the difference between more training and more skill and
Mm.
why they're important, in their different aspects. Usually it becomes a concoction of these functional sports specific exercises, and then you've lost me at that point,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Um, so yeah, I think that's really cool. So you do this 10 by 10 and then you
Mm.
kind of build that out if I've
Yeah,
got
you'd
that
either obviously
correctly.
increase intensity or increase volume. You wouldn't increase both in the same session because again, that's where problems can come when someone maybe feels good and think, oh well, I've done this amount. I'll just keep going. And ideally with a sprint workout, you kind of like you want to finish feeling like you could have done a little bit more if you're actually training to get faster and better at speed rather than going to complete exhaustion.
Right. So you would do say 10 by 10, build that out, but at a lower intensity. So
Yeah.
what you'd run at like 70 or 80% maybe
Yeah,
something.
but yeah, to begin with, and then you can work that up to 100 then if you want really, because across 10 meters, you're like so I said, you're constraining the risk because it's so short.
And what would be your say meterage be? Is that a word meterage? Have I just made that up? What would be the meters then? How so you go 10 by 10 and
Yeah,
then
then
how
you could
would
do
you
you could go up, you could go up to 15 meters then and pull the volume down. You could do 5 sets of 15 meters and then
I
you could
see.
start then after you've done 5 sets of 15, take 2 to 3 minutes rest and then put in another set and you can start building up the volume with more sets. Like you
It's gradually exposing yourself
Yes,
to yeah.
progressive overload really like you would do in anything else. But yeah, it's just there can obviously be that temptation to always do more and chase fatigue with it, which you kind of really want to avoid.
Yeah, okay. Well, I knew you'd be the man to speak to about this because I want to lay it out for people that are listening who maybe want to get back to
Yeah.
something like this, you know. So you
And then
build it out, yeah.
the other thing is then with it is realize you can't, if you want to actually be fast, you can't muscle it. So whilst you're producing high amounts of force, if you, it's like, I relate it to like swinging a golf club. If you grip a golf club really hard and you try and absolutely hit it as hard as you can, your actual club head speed and swing velocity will slow down because
Same
you're
as
putting
throwing a
too much
punch.
tension. Yeah,
Same thing.
just like that. Like you said, you related to me before. A boxer, they're obviously relaxed, aren't they? Their shoulders aren't shrugged up, and so if you try and muscle a sprint, it's not going to be very effective. So it's kind of like I heard someone call it controlled aggression. I think
Right, right, I see. And what about because my thoughts for athletes who play sports, I don't see a place for jumps or bounds or anything like that. I think they get a lot of exposure to that in season. You think
Mm,
they get thousands and thousands and thousands of jumps and bounds in season. It's like it's tough. And
mm.
actually, in an annual plan, I personally want my athlete to be rested. I
Yeah.
don't, I don't want them to over prepare themselves even more than they need to
Mm.
before they come back in season. I don't want that. I want them to rest, recover, and then come back in season. And anyway, when they do their skill work and they practice, they're going to get re-exposed to that anyway, naturally.
Yeah.
But I think for a non-athlete who doesn't have that exposure, you brought up something pretty interesting, I think, where you said they don't get that. Don't
Mm.
get that exposure. Do you see any place for those things for non-athletes at all,
Yeah,
or
I
no?
think so. Yeah, definitely. Just teaches you again how to obviously move more dynamically and get better at moving dynamically, which is something which is often lost or maybe forgotten about if someone hasn't played sport for years.
Right. And how would you introduce that alongside the sprint work or
Yeah, I mean, yeah, probably for me, if someone was looking to go back to sport, I would have some speed work, and then alongside that, on that, like you're calling an athlete day there, I would probably have some players in there, so like hopping, bounding, but again, done at like a medium intensity, where you
right?
can accumulate more volume and get used to the movement of it, rather than trying to necessarily express as much, you know, power, height, velocity as you can on those plyos or jumping, whichever you're doing.
And what would your ranges be, say, for someone who's reintroducing to it? How many jumps or bounds would you be looking at?
I probably again just keep it low, keep it like three sets of like 5 to 8 on each leg if you're doing single limb, like
Right.
a hop or a bound. Um, you're getting some exposure to it, to both the skill and the loading, and you're not cooking yourself at the same time.
And you wouldn't build that up over time, then you.
Um, Again, it depends on the goals of the person. You could you'd probably be looking to improve the looking at the landing of someone as well. So like that's something I've learned with plyos is you're not looking like a lot of people when they're some people will go too hard on plyos initially and then they're almost they don't trust the landing or their body doesn't allow them to kind of trust the landing, so they start landing on the toe, whereas you're actually trying to land more forefoot, so
Mm.
you can actually propel then back off the like what you prepare for the landing of a plyo in the air.
Mm.
If you're hitting the ground and then trying to like re-exert yourself back off the ground, it's too late. Like players are so quick to
Would
go.
you say though, and this is just my critical thinking hat going on, if you're already doing the sprint work,
Mm.
would there still be any need for that? Would you say, or no?
Again, I'm not like, someone would probably argue with me on that. I guess it depends on the individual how they move.
Mm,
If there are certain things where someone is, that's where you can look at like the sprint form. So if someone is very like stuck on the ground, I can't remember if you like the term or not, but if they're not very like elastic, they don't bounce very well across the ground, then something like pliers could be very good. But you could also give someone a skipping rope, and you can tell a
mm,
lot about a person.
mm.
Give someone a skipping rope, and you can tell a lot about a person, like how naturally athletic they are just by their ability to just bounce off the floor with rhythm.
Right,
Because
right,
that's what like sprinting is based on rhythm. Like if you have no rhythm, you can be the no, you can be a gorilla, but if you have no rhythm, then you're not going to be able to move very fast.
right, right. So more for coordination and timing and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah, I get that for sure. But yeah, and I think that's a pretty interesting one, isn't it? Because
Mm.
I've had, mate, I did a post, and I've had a few people reach out to me about it, like,
Yeah,
how
one
do
last
you,
week was it?
yeah, the one last
Yeah.
week, like, how do you incorporate it and, stuff like that. So, and it's very, very simple. It's like,
Mm.
look, you want to make sure that you're training, strength training properly. You want to
Yeah.
make sure that you're fit, and you want to make sure that you can maintain some ability to actually use your body. And
Mm.
whether you do that with more self-defense work, or whether you do that with sprints like we were just talking about, it's completely up to you. But some way you need to learn how to express that
Yeah,
in
definitely.
but anything else you want to add to that, mate? Or was
No,
that
I'd
pretty
probably just say the other just a little point I forgot to touch on would be if someone is, yeah, firstly getting into sprinting, to go and play a sport or whatever, or they just want to, be able to sprint, is yeah, start with the shorter distances, like I said, where you're just working on acceleration. But also if you could also do it with pushing a sled, because that's also going to constrain you. It's going to like,
right, right?
it's putting the brakes on you to a limit. You
It's a
can't.
good point.
So that, or otherwise, find a hill. Don't sprint on the flat. You're more likely to tear yourself up on the flat than you are on the hill.
So acceleration work off a hill, and then you'd
Mhm.
gradually decrease the incline, obviously, to a flat.
Yeah, you can go on the flat then, once you're accustomed to it and things, and you're going to do more, get into, more top end velocity stuff.
Yeah.
But the other thing is with sport is acceleration is pretty much what counts the most in, typical field sports like football, rugby, and things like that. Rarely is someone getting up to, or they will in like a striker in football or a winger on a counter or something, but most things are done across short acceleration periods. So if you can develop your acceleration, you're going to be in a good place.
Yeah, definitely. Well, mate, I think that was a fascinating one. I really do. I knew you'd be the man to ask about this
Right.
stuff as well. But anyway, I got to pop, so I'll end the recording here. Do you want to see us out, or?
No, you crack on the first one of the year, sir. You go for it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Um, anyway, guys, if you enjoyed, feel free to leave that rating and review, and we'll catch you in the next one.